So I'm going to breeze through a couple of myths. These are things that, even after looking sort of at the information that's available, not everyone has that sort of full picture of open access. And these are some things that when we did these webinars and seminars, we would get these kind of questions. Or I certainly had the same experience when I was in the lab, and I thought PLOS One was like Wikipedia, and it wasn't really peer reviewed, and it was designed for you to publish anything, and then just people would add to it, something like that. So one of the myths, the open access journals are not peer reviewed. And this was certainly put forth in a recent sting. That's what he called it. John Bohannon from Science sent a fake paper with some pretty bad, lacking ethical guidelines and things like that around the world to lots of different journals and publishers. And he saw about half of these publishers accepted his paper, even though it had some pretty clear flaws to it. So this is true, but we are talking again here. These are the kind of publishers that you are taking advantage of the model, and I have a slide about that in a minute. But it's important to know that they don't represent something like BMC or PLOS or Hindawi, places that are actually providing peer review. So really, it depends on the journal, and there are some resources we have listed here or available also on a couple of our articles on the Resource Center that can help you identify whether a particular journal is something you want to submit to or not. So it has nothing to do with open access itself. It's just that with a model in which the author is paying a charge, that left the door open for questionable businesses to come in, pretend that they're selling you peer review when they're really not. So another myth is that open access journals are of poor quality. And I think this is pretty clearly debunked if you just look back at PLOS Biology as one of the founding examples. I don't necessarily think the impact factor is the best representation of quality for a journal, but it's a very common one that a lot of people's grants and salaries are tied to. And if you look at the impact factors for a lot of these journals, they're pretty good. And even something broad like PLOS One or Scientific Reports has an impact factor that honestly is as good or better as a lot of journals that I published in my field. Biomed Central has over 175 journals with impact factors. So they're treated just like any other traditional journal. They often look pretty good in their field. So again, it comes down to journal by journal, but as a movement, open access is not different. It's a different model, a different approach, but it can be done with just as high quality material as traditional journals. Sorry, click back in there. There's some other new ones. eLife is a good example, very, very selective journal. ACS Central Science or eBiomedicine run by Elsevier. These are designed to compete with the New England Journal of Medicine, Nature, things like that. So they're being very selective. They're run an open access model, but there's no reason to believe that they're any different. Okay, another quick note, and then we'll wrap up with a few minutes on how open access affects you and get to the questions. Open access articles do not reserve rights for authors. This is another misconception. It's important to note some free to read, free to reuse are different, right? The copyright that the journal has on a lot of your material, they might still grant license for people to read it for free. The Creative Commons licenses that are more common among open access journals actually allow some amount of reuse or distribution as well. So I won't get into the different Creative Commons licenses too much, but Amanda just put this in the chat. I've got it here on the slide. We did just partner with Bitesize Bio to provide some content that helps you understand the different licenses. Creative Commons Attribution, the CC BY license, is the broadest, but there are some differences in terms of the other licenses available or used by journals. The important thing to note, though, they allow some amount of reuse, and they all allow you some author's rights. So whereas traditionally you didn't even have the right, you signed over the copyright to the journal or to the publisher, you now maintain the rights. They're just slightly different. So encourage you to go take a look at that if you're wondering about the difference. Another myth is that open access is a passing fad. I won't spend too much time here except just to show you this chart. I think it's pretty clear from our discussion that more and more journals, more and more articles are using open access. So this is even less of a myth that you hear anymore. People tend to consider open access to be a part of scholarly publishing through and through. So in 2011, 16% of articles were OA. That number is certainly higher, probably in the 20s at this point now.
To view the full video of this and all of our other webinars for bioscientists at the bench, please visit bitesizebio.com/webinars.